It happens in an instant. A sailor vanishes into the open ocean as a nuclear submarine prepares to dive. On a surface ship, alarms, rescue boats, and rapid maneuvers offer a fighting chance. But for a submerged submarine, every second becomes an exercise in helplessness. Why are these incidents so rare? And what really determines survival when there is no way to turn back? The answer reveals a side of naval operations few ever witness. The instant a sailor disappears overboard, the ship's world contracts to a single point, the spot where the person vanished. Voices rise in alarm, cutting through wind and engine noise. The watchstander who sees the fall shouts "Man overboard," starboard side or port side. The direction matters. That shout is repeated up and down the line, echoing across the decks. One sailor's job is now to never take their eyes off the person in the water, arm outstretched, finger locked, pointing directly at the spot. Even as the ship moves, that visual contact is lifeline and eyesight. Lose sight, and the odds of recovery plummet. Within seconds, the bridge is alive with orders. The officer of the deck confirms the alarm, triggers the ship's whistle, and calls for a muster to account for every crew member. On the bridge, the conning officer orders the helm to slow or stop, depending on speed and sea state. The ship's bell rings out a pattern: 3 long, 3 short, 3 long, the Morse code for SOS. Sailors rush to their stations. Others grab life rings, smoke floats, and dye markers, tossing them into the sea to mark the location and give the person something to hold. These markers are more than tradition. They are essential in rough water, where a head can vanish in the troughs between waves in seconds. The signal matters. The person who saw the fall keeps pointing, never looking away, even as the ship's motion pulls them further from the spot. If the ship is moving fast, the distance grows with every second. The bridge coordinates with lookouts posted on both sides, relaying updates as the ship prepares to maneuver. Procedures drilled into every sailor's memory dictate the next moves. The crew must act with speed and precision. On a surface ship, the goal is to circle back as quickly as possible, but none of that helps if the person in the water is lost from view. Every second spent searching for a vanished spot is a second the sailor is alone, drifting farther from help. Watch-standing doctrine is clear. The first minute is the most critical. The chain of actions, alarm, muster, visual pointing, and marker deployment unfolds in a practiced rhythm. Each step is designed to buy time and keep hope alive. In the open ocean, with no land in sight, the smallest error or delay can mean the difference between life and death. For the crew, the urgency is real and immediate. For the sailor in the water, survival now depends on how quickly the ship can find its way back, and whether that vital line of sight can be held just a little longer. Surface ships train relentlessly for the moment a sailor vanishes overboard. The first priority is always to bring the ship back to the person in the water as quickly and safely as possible. The bridge team issues helm orders to execute a Williamson turn, a maneuver designed to return the vessel to its original track. The helmsman throws the rudder hard over toward the side where the sailor fell, swinging the bow away in a wide arc. As the ship swings through 60 degrees, the rudder is reversed. The vessel carves a looping path through the water, doubling back on itself. This places the ship upwind and up current of the spot, minimizing the risk of pushing the person further away or over the propellers. Throughout the maneuver, lookouts line the rails, eyes fixed on the water, searching for any sign of movement or color. The sailor who first spotted the fall continues to point, arm steady, guiding the bridge toward the last known position. The ship slows as it approaches, reducing the risk of injury from the hull or propellers. Speed and precision must balance. Too fast and the ship overshoots. Too slow and precious seconds slip away. Once in position, the crew readies the retrieval gear. On U.S. Navy surface ships, the J-bar davit stands ready for rapid deployment. This steel arm, shaped like an inverted letter J, swings out over the side. A rescue swimmer, already suited up and tethered, clips into a strop, a harness designed to secure both the swimmer and the person in the water. At the officer's command, the swimmer descends into the sea, braving the swell and cold. The J-bar's design allows the crew to lower the swimmer quickly and hoist both back aboard, all without launching a boat. The entire system is engineered for speed, typically rated for loads up to 1,000 pounds, and can be operated in moderate seas by a handful of deck crew. If the seas are rough or the person drifts beyond reach, the ship may deploy a rigid hull inflatable boat. But this takes longer, 5 to 10 minutes to launch and recover in good conditions. Helicopters are preferred on aircraft carriers, able to reach a person in minutes if already airborne. On smaller ships, the J-bar remains the primary tool, bridging the gap between the moment of rescue and the first aid station below decks. Crew members wrap the recovered sailor in thermal blankets, check for hypothermia, and rush them to medical care. Every step is governed by procedure, honed through drills and real emergencies. The goal is always the same: minimize time in the water, maximize the chance of survival. Surface ships rely on practiced maneuvers and specialized equipment to close the distance and bring their own home. These tools and tactics stand in stark contrast to the limitations faced by submarines, where the options for immediate recovery are far more limited. Submarines are built for a world beneath the surface, and that shapes every inch of their design. The hull of a Virginia-class submarine, for example, is sculpted for silent movement underwater, not for agility on the open sea. When surfaced, these boats ride low and heavy, with most of their mass hidden beneath the waves. The teardrop shape, so effective for slipping through the ocean's depths, creates drag and instability when turning on the surface. Unlike a destroyer, which can swing through a Williamson turn in just a few ship lengths, a submarine needs far more room. Estimates from naval architecture suggest more than 20 times its own length to complete a full circle. In practical terms, that means a surfaced submarine may require over 1 kilometer to change direction, especially at higher speeds. Stopping is no easier. Surface ships use multiple engines and rudders to slow and maneuver, but a submarine has only a single screw and limited steering surfaces above the waterline. Crashback maneuvers, throwing the engine into reverse, risk losing control or broaching, where the vessel rolls dangerously or exposes its sail to the wind. Even at moderate speed, it takes a submarine several minutes and a wide arc to come to a halt or reverse course. In the critical moments after a man overboard, these physical limits make a quick return to the spot nearly impossible. There is no small boat locker on board. Submarines do not carry rescue boats, launch ramps, or deck cranes like those found on surface warships. The deck itself is narrow, with few flat spaces and no dedicated stations for rescue gear. Every procedure topside is focused on minimizing risk, not on mounting a recovery. If a sailor goes over the side, the submarine cannot deploy a rescue swimmer or swing out a davit arm. The only immediate tools available are life rings and smoke markers, basic aids, not solutions. These hardware realities are intentional. They result from choices made for stealth and survival beneath the waves. Engineers trade away surface maneuverability and rescue capacity to keep the submarine quiet, fast, and hidden. The absence of small craft, the long turning radius, and the lack of rapid stopping power all reflect a single priority. The mission comes first. In an emergency, the submarine's best option is to mark the spot and call for help, and hope that someone else can reach the sailor in time. The vessel itself cannot turn back quickly, and its crew knows it. These limits set the stage for what happens next, when the search for a lost sailor must depend on forces far beyond the submarine's own reach. Every movement on a submarine's deck is governed by strict policy, shaped by decades of hard lessons and the unforgiving reality of the sea. No one steps topside without the captain's explicit permission. Before the first hatch is opened, the officer of the deck reviews the plan, checks the weather, and confirms that every sailor is wearing the required gear. This is not mere formality. It is the first and most important barrier between a sailor and the ocean. Harness rules are absolute. Each person working outside clips into a safety line, the harness anchored to a sturdy point on the submarine's deck. The line itself is checked for wear, the snap hooks for proper latching. Gloves and approved non-slip shoes are mandatory, even in calm seas. The safety officer walks the deck before any evolution, inspecting lifelines, stanchions, and the placement of temporary barriers. No one leans over the side, no one steps beyond a marked boundary. If a lifeline must be removed for maintenance or stores transfer, only the commanding officer can authorize it, and only when the risk is unavoidable. The U.S. Navy Safety Manual, OPNAVINST 5100.19E, spells out these rules in detail. Life preservers that are inherently buoyant or auto-inflatable vests are required whenever there is a fall risk. Harnesses are designed to arrest a fall instantly, and every sailor learns to check their gear by habit. The harness must fit snugly, and the line must be kept short enough to prevent a tumble over the lifeline. Temporary guardrails or chains are rigged whenever an opening is left unattended. Every piece of equipment is inspected regularly, with damaged lines or hooks tagged out and replaced without delay. The culture aboard a submarine reinforces these policies at every level. New sailors drill on harness use and deck procedures before ever setting foot outside. Veterans pass down stories of near misses and the consequences of complacency. Safety briefings before any topside evolution review the conditions, the plan, and the gear. No shortcuts, no exceptions. The officer of the deck and the safety petty officer work together to ensure absolute compliance, knowing that even a single lapse can have fatal consequences. These measures work. Documented overboard incidents from submarines are vanishingly rare, a testament to the discipline and seriousness with which these rules are enforced. The procedures are not just about following orders. They are about survival in an environment where the margin for error is measured in seconds. On a submarine, prevention is not just the first line of defense, it is often the only one. If a sailor does fall, the next steps depend on swift coordination with outside search and rescue forces. But the reality is clear. The best rescue is the one never needed. The moment a submarine confirms a sailor is overboard, the search and rescue clock starts ticking. The command team transmits a distress signal by radio, relaying the precise GPS coordinates and the last known heading to regional rescue coordination centers. There is no hesitation. Navy doctrine demands that every minute counts, especially when cold water or rough seas threaten survival. The call goes out to any available asset, surface ships, Coast Guard cutters, and most critically, helicopters. Helicopter search and rescue teams operate on a readiness system, measured in minutes. On a U.S. Navy carrier or large surface ship, search and rescue helicopters stand by in what is called Condition 1, also known as Alert 15. This means the crew is suited up, the aircraft is prepped, and engines can be running or ready to start. From the moment the alarm is received, the goal is to be airborne within 15 minutes. Even on shore at major Navy or Coast Guard air stations, crews train to beat a 30-minute scramble window, day or night. These timelines are not just targets. They are drilled, logged, and reviewed after every launch. Once the order comes, the process becomes a blur of practiced motion. Pilots run pre-flight checks. Rescue swimmers secure harnesses and check their gear, thermal suits, hoist cables, and medical kits. The flight deck clears and the helicopter lifts off, banking toward the coordinates relayed by the submarine. If a carrier group is nearby, the helicopter may already be airborne, cutting response time to under 10 minutes. In less trafficked areas, Coast Guard stations along the coast or on remote islands can launch Dolphin or Jayhawk helicopters in 15 to 30 minutes, depending on alert status and weather. Each base maintains an around-the-clock crew with sleeping quarters close to the hangar and gear staged for immediate action. The first 30 minutes are critical. In calm seas and daylight, a helicopter can cover 5 nautical miles in under 3 minutes and 50 nautical miles in about 20 minutes. But the ocean is rarely calm, and darkness or fog can double search times. The rescue swimmer waiting in the back studies the sea for the orange flash of a dye marker or the flicker of a strobe. Every launch is a race against time, measured not just in miles, but in heartbeats and body temperature. A retired Navy search and rescue crew chief recalled the pressure, saying their training mattered because someone's life depended on how fast they got off the ground. For the sailor in the water, every minute is colder, every wave higher, For the teams in the air, the clock is a constant companion, driving every action from the moment the call comes until the search begins in earnest. Every minute a sailor remains missing in the open ocean, the area to search grows larger, sometimes doubling in size with each passing hour. The first challenge is drawing the search box, a calculation that turns a single GPS point into a moving, expanding target. Navy and Coast Guard rescue coordinators use a method defined in NTTP 350.1, blending wind speed, wave direction, and surface current data to predict where a person in the water might drift. This is not guesswork. It is a science shaped by decades of rescue experience and refined by computer modeling. The process begins with the last known position, the spot called the datum. From there, planners estimate how fast and in what direction the sailor will drift. Wind pushes the body and any flotation device downwind at roughly 1% of the wind's speed. Surface currents add their own steady pull, sometimes running at 1 knot or more. Waves, especially in high sea states, can double the uncertainty and cause the search area to balloon quickly. In moderate conditions, visual contact with a person in the water is often lost within 2 to 5 minutes. After that, searchers rely on calculations and probability, not direct sight. To manage this uncertainty, the Navy uses SAROPS, the Search and Rescue Optimal Planning System. SAROPS runs thousands of simulations, each one a possible drift path, factoring in weather reports, ocean forecasts, and the type of clothing or flotation the sailor might have. The system produces a heat map, a probability field showing where the person is most likely to be found over time. Search planners then lay out patterns such as expanding squares, sector searches, or parallel tracks, each designed to maximize the chance of detection within the growing box. Probability of detection drops sharply at night or in rough seas. During daylight and calm water, a rescue helicopter can spot a life ring or dye marker from up to 1 mile away. In heavy weather, that range shrinks to a few hundred yards. The longer it takes for rescue assets to arrive and begin their search, the wider the drift area becomes. After an hour, the box can cover several square miles. Searchers must balance speed with thoroughness, sweeping the highest probability zones first, then widening their net as time passes. These calculations are more than academic. They determine where helicopters fly, where ships steer, and where hope is focused. The math behind the search is a race against time and the elements. For the sailor in the water, the expanding search box is both a lifeline and a reminder. Survival depends on being found before the ocean's drift carries them beyond reach. The first 5 minutes in open water are a test of instinct and physiology. When a sailor plunges into the ocean, the shock of cold water is immediate and violent. At temperatures common in the North Atlantic, often between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit, the body reacts before the mind has time to process what has happened. The skin's nerve endings fire alarms, triggering an involuntary gasp. That single breath, if taken underwater, can flood the lungs and end a life in seconds. Even for those who surface, the next few moments are a struggle to regain control. Hyperventilation sets in, with rapid, shallow breaths that can last for up to 3 minutes, making it nearly impossible to coordinate swimming or even keep the mouth above water. Muscles tighten and lose strength as the cold clamps down. Fine motor skills fade, and simple tasks like holding on to a life ring or keeping a whistle to the lips become nearly impossible. Panic is a natural response, but panic drains energy fast. The urge to swim hard or shout for help can exhaust a person within minutes, especially if waves are high or the sea is rough. In moderate conditions, even a strong swimmer can disappear from view in less than 5 minutes, swept away by currents and swallowed by the troughs between swells. Survival in these first moments depends on resisting the urge to thrash or panic. Training manuals teach sailors to fight the instinct to gasp, to keep the airway clear, and to float as calmly as possible. But the body's reflexes are hard to overcome. Without a flotation device, many people tire quickly, unable to keep their heads above water as the cold saps their strength. The cold shock phase is not about hypothermia yet. Hypothermia comes later. Here, the danger is immediate, drowning due to loss of breathing control, disorientation, and the overwhelming physical response to sudden immersion. Studies show that most drownings in cold water happen within the first 3 minutes, before hypothermia even has a chance to set in. The window for rescue is brutally short. If the crew can keep visual contact and mark the spot, there is hope. If not, the sailor's struggle may end before help can even begin to arrive. Every action matters. Every shout, every life ring thrown, every second spent searching must account for this unforgiving reality. The ocean gives little time for error, and in these first minutes, survival hangs by a thread. 15 minutes in cold ocean water, the human body begins a new battle. The initial shock has passed, but now the slow, relentless drain of heat takes over. U.S. Navy survival tables are blunt. At 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, a common temperature in the North Atlantic, hypothermia can start to set in within 15 minutes. Hands and feet turn numb first. Muscles stiffen, making even simple movements, like treading water or gripping a life ring, progressively harder. Fine motor control fades, and the ability to swim declines sharply. By the 20-minute mark, most people without a flotation device can no longer keep their head above water. Even with a life vest, the cold seeps in through every seam, slowing heart rate and clouding thinking. Survival. Odds are dictated by water temperature and whether the sailor has flotation. In water at 55 degrees Fahrenheit, Navy charts indicate that exhaustion or unconsciousness can occur in as little as 30 minutes. Death from hypothermia may follow within an hour. At 40 degrees Fahrenheit, the timeline shortens. Unconsciousness can occur in 15 to 30 minutes, and death can follow in less than an hour. These numbers are not just statistics, they are the boundaries within which search and rescue teams operate. Every minute lost means the search area grows, and the chances of survival shrink. The body's core temperature drops steadily, losing heat to the water 25 times faster than to air. Shivering slows, then stops as muscles run out of energy. Confusion sets in. Victims may remove clothing or life jackets in a final, irrational act known as paradoxical undressing. Without a life vest, staying afloat becomes impossible, long before hypothermia reaches its final stage. Even the strongest swimmer cannot outlast the cold. Navy doctrine stresses that flotation extends survival time, sometimes doubling or tripling it, but it does not guarantee rescue. As the timeline stretches past the half-hour mark, the window for successful recovery narrows rapidly. Rescue teams know that after 45 minutes in cold water, most survivors without flotation are already unconscious or worse. With a life jacket, survival can extend to an hour or more, but the odds continue to fall. The search becomes a race against a clock that never stops ticking. For the sailor alone in the water, every minute is a struggle to remain conscious and afloat. For the crew and the rescuers, the timeline is unforgiving. They must find and recover the sailor before the ocean claims another life. Aboard a surface ship, the cry of "man overboard" sets off a rapid, rehearsed response. In 2025, Airman Jose Antonio Rivera Lynch IV disappeared from the USS George Washington in the Timor Sea. Within minutes, the USS Robert Smalls and the USS Shoup joined the search. Helicopters swept the water, and lookouts scanned the horizon day and night. For nearly 48 hours, every available asset was deployed. The weather was clear, the protocols followed to the letter, but the sailor was never found. The search ended not for lack of effort, but because the ocean's scale and unpredictability overwhelmed even the best prepared crews. Surface ships carry rescue gear. Nets along the deck, life rings, smoke markers, and the J-bar davit, a steel arm designed to lower rescue swimmers quickly into the sea. In moderate conditions, a marked spot and a fast turn can bring someone back aboard in minutes. On smaller vessels, rigid hull inflatable boats are launched if the person drifts out of reach. But even a 5-minute delay can be fatal. Helicopters offer the fastest response for carriers, able to reach a drifting sailor quickly if already airborne. But their effectiveness depends on weather, daylight, and the sailor's location. Response time matters. Despite these tools, the numbers tell a sobering story. Over the past 50 years, blunt trauma from falls overboard has been the leading cause of afloat fatalities in the U.S. Navy. From 1968 to 2018, 259 deaths were attributed to man-overboard incidents, outnumbering flight deck accidents. In fiscal year 2024, 3 fatal overboard mishaps occurred on surface ships, including one during security boat training at Weapons Station Yorktown and another while underway at sea. Each time, alarms sounded, lookouts pointed, recovery gear was deployed, and Allied ships joined the search. Yet, in rough seas or darkness, a sailor can vanish in minutes, lost in the propeller wash or swept away by currents. The USS Roosevelt case in 1974 near Mayport, Florida highlights another challenge. A sailor fell overboard in a crowded channel. The carrier's size made it impossible to stop quickly. Despite constant visual contact and rapid musters, the ship's momentum and the busy waterway meant the sailor was never recovered. Even with nets, markers, and coordinated searches, the ocean's power often outmatches human effort. This illustrates the limits of even large surface vessels. These cases reveal the limits of even the best-equipped surface ships. Rescue gear, training, and fast response can still fall short against distance, weather, and time. For every sailor pulled from the water, others are lost, the search area widens, and hope fades. Survival depends on immediate rescue assets, environmental conditions, and proximity to support. In the rare event that a sailor does fall from a surfaced submarine, the difference between theory and reality becomes painfully clear. One of the only publicly acknowledged incidents took place in the frigid waters of the Gulf of Alaska during the Cold War. The crew was conducting a helicopter litter transfer for a medical emergency, a delicate operation that demanded absolute focus and discipline on the exposed deck. Amid the rush, a photographer named Brian, distracted by the chaos and forgetting to clip his harness, lost his footing. A sudden lurch, a slammed hatch, and he vanished over the side. The water temperature hovered just above freezing, 34 degrees Fahrenheit. Brian wore a life jacket, but the shock was immediate. Within seconds, the cold began its assault. The crew on deck shouted the alarm. The helicopter pilot, already overhead, reacted without hesitation. He kept Brian in sight, hovering low and steady as the rescue swimmer was lowered on the cable. The entire operation, from splash to hoist, took just 2.5 minutes. Even in that short time, hypothermia set in. Brian's hands went numb, his breathing ragged. The cold robbed him of strength, and the waves threatened to pull him under. When the rescue swimmer reached him, Brian could barely grip the strop. The swimmer locked him in, signaled the hoist, and both rose into the gray sky. The helicopter delivered Brian back to the submarine, where corpsmen wrapped him in thermal blankets and checked his core temperature. He survived, but only because every piece of luck and training aligned in those critical moments. Retired submariners remember this story as a lesson in both vulnerability and discipline. One former crewman, reflecting on the incident decades later, described the emotional aftermath. He said, "We drilled for prevention because we knew if you went over, there was almost nothing the boat could do. That day, the only reason we did not lose him was because the helicopter was already on station. Most times, you are not that lucky." This incident stands as a rare example of a surfaced submarine rescue ending in survival. The circumstances, calm seas, immediate visual contact, and a ready helicopter were exceptional. For most submariners, the story reinforces the core truth. Prevention is everything, and the ocean seldom offers second chances. Today, every U.S. Navy submarine mission relies on prevention, not rescue, a calculated risk shaped by design and necessity. As automation expands and crews shrink, human vigilance remains the last safeguard against the ocean's indifference. For those who serve, a single misstep can separate life from loss. In the silent vastness, safety is never an afterthought. It is the line between presence and disappearance. Stay safe, and thank you for watching.